Hey guys, tonight we're slipping quietly into a jungle soaked in darkness where even the moonlight tiptoes through the trees, and every sound makes your heart twitch. You're not on a hiking trip. You're not camping for fun. You're in a remote village, somewhere between the rivers and ridgelines of a medieval world. And there's something out there. Something that growls without warning and kills without pause. The tiger isn't in a cage, it's in charge. The grass whispers as you move. You've got nothing but a crude spear and a prayer. No flashlight, no tranquilizer gun, just your heartbeat, thumping like a war drum. You think you hear something in the underbrush and your breath freezes. That's the moment you realize you probably won't survive this dot. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe a bit. Only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and if you're listening from somewhere unusual. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where these sleepy history nights take us all. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You were born into a village that fears the forest. It's a humid night. Crickets are singing. Somewhere far off, a nightingale calls. But everyone in your family is listening for a different sound. Not birds, not frogs, not even other humans. They're listening for a low growl. Something distant but moving closer. Something that doesn't make a habit of being heard twice. The year doesn't matter much out here. Could be 1284. Could be 1042. You don't read calendars, you read claw marks in the dirt outside your livestock pen. Your village is small. Thatch-roofed homes, a shrine built from sun-dried bricks, some farmland, and a perimeter of desperation. You live somewhere in what's now India or possibly Southeast Asia, but to you, it's just home. It's also where tigers hunt. At night. You sleep above ground in a bamboo loft, not because it's comfortable, but because height buys time. Time to shout. Time to throw a torch. Time to grab a blade. If you're lucky, your family has already lost to goats this month. One of them was pulled right out of the pen, broken-necked, and dragged into the forest. You found the skull a week later, polished clean by ants. You're not angry. You're terrified. The village elders speak in whispers. They tell stories of the night ghosts, striped demons that carry away babies and grown men alike. There's a hut outside the village, abandoned now after the family inside it was killed in their sleep. All 6 of them. The tiger had jumped through the roof, they say, landed like a god of death. Historians still argue whether tigers in the Middle Ages really attacked villages, as frequently as oral traditions claim. But your people don't Argedi remember. You're only 13, but you've already learned to step lightly. You know which branches creak, where the thorn vines hide, and how to listen for birds' silency. Eerie moment when even the animals stop making noise. As if in mourning, you've seen tiger tracks, wide as your outstretched hand, for toes, claws retracted. The spacing between prints suggests a slow walk, not a sprint. It was stalking, watching, testing. Some days, you pretend you're not scared. You gather firewood deeper into the jungle. You laugh with the other boys. But every so often, you'll find a pile of feathers and blood or worse. Nothing at all, just emptiness where someone should be. There are no forests in your vocabulary, just the green. That's what your father calls it. Don't go into the green alone, he warns, tightening the strap on your ankle knife. The green eats. You wonder if the tiger is a single creature. Some villagers think so. A devil who changes shape. Others believe there are banyan, entire lineage of striped killers, passed down like a family curse. And then one day, it happens. A scream, the kind that ends mid-breath, a hunter, gone before sunset. His bow found, snapped into. No body. The village holds a meeting. You're not supposed to be there, but you listen anyway. Hushed tones, plans, spears, fire, fear, a hunting party forms. Not to kill but to warn, to shout into the trees, to make. Fire, to let the beast know, we see you, don't come closer. You're chosen to stay behind and guard the children. It feels like cowardice, but it's survival. The days blur. Smoke lingers in the air from the nightly fire rings. You can barely sleep. Every rustle of leaves, every twig breaking under some animal's weight, jolts you upright. Then come the tiger prayers dot in your local temple small, soot-stained. Built on stone pillars to survive monsoon floods, people leave offerings. Milk, turmeric, coins, not for the gods of rain or harvest, but for protection from the beast. Some say the tiger is a messenger, a punishment. Others say it's a test. You start to wonder, could something be that powerful and still be just an animal? Your grandmother doesn't think so. She tells you about the guardian tiger spirit, the one that watches over the jungle and only attacks when angered. She says it remembers every arrow that pierced its skin, every net, every insult. But there are no tiger monks in your village, no shamans to speak with it. Just you, just a spear. Just hope. A week after the last attack, something changes. The jungle is to quiet. No boar, no monkeys, not even birds. You wake in the middle of the night, sweating through your linen tunic, and something primal tells you it's close. You peer through the slats in the bamboo wall. Moonlight glints off something eyes, maybe. You squint, trying to breathe silently. There, between the trees, you see it, striped, still, watching. It doesn't move like an animal. It moves like a ghost with claws. You want to scream. You want to run, but you stay frozen, your breath shallow, counting your heartbeats, and then it disappears. No sound, no leaf rustle, just gone. The next morning, you find tracks again, right near the goat pen. The village decides it's time to fight back. Not chase, not trap. Kill. You're given a job. Stand watch at dusk, spear in hand, near the bait goat. You don't name the goat. You don't even look at it. You try not to think about what you're really waiting for. It'll be a long night, and you're not sure you'll see dawn. But if you somehow manage to survive, what comes next then? Maybe, just maybe, you'll learn how to hunt the hunter. Maybe. The bait goat is tied to a wooden stake driven deep into the ground, just at the edge where the last rice paddy surrenders to the jungle. It bleats pitifully, unaware, perhaps only half aware of its role in this plan. You don't pet it. You don't speak to it. Too risky. Emotional attachment only makes it worse when the screaming starts. The adults have arranged everything. Bamboo stakes, carved to needle-sharp points, are buried in a shallow pit just behind the bait. The idea is simple. The tiger leaps for the goat. The dirt gives way beneath its weight and snap. It's impaled. That's the idea. Anyway, your job. Stay nearby and make noise if you see anything moving. You're 13, remember, too small to actually fight the beast, but old enough to be a pair of eyes in the night. The pit trap is a popular solution in your part of the world. It's cheap, requires no metal, and doesn't need you to face the tiger directly. Historians still argue whether medieval pitfall traps were common enough to work effectively against predators like tigers, or more symbolic than practical. But for your village, it's not a theory, it's the only plan anyone has. You crouch in the dark behind a woven screen of palm fronds. Sweat drips down your neck. You listen. The jungle doesn't hum tonight, it waits. You've heard that in other regions, especially in places like Java, or the Malay Peninsula, hunters baited tigers with livestock, but added clever twists. They'd use tripwire rigs to drop nets from the trees, or set long, sharpened bamboo poles at chest height behind the bait, so a lunging tiger would skewer itself. Some places even used spring-loaded arrows, primitive, deadly booby traps that required careful engineering and luck. In India, they favored baiting with tethered water buffalo, while in Persia, it might be a wild donkey or stag. The strategy always relied on one gamble, that the tiger wouldn't notice the trap until it was too late. But you know better than to believe in perfect traps. The tiger knows your smell. It knows your rhythms. It has watched your village longer than you've watched the stars. The bait goat bleats again. You clench your spear tighter. Not that it would help. You've seen what tiger claws do to tree bark. Imagine your ribs. Still, you're here. You're doing your job. Maybe that's courage. You spot movement, not the tiger. A rat. It scurries past your foot, startling you so badly you almost yelp. You stifle it, hand over mouth. You hear your own heartbeat in your ears, louder than any drum. The hours crawl by midnight. Your eyes sting with fatigue, and the goat has fallen into a sort of shivering silence. You wonder if animals can sense death coming. Suddenly crack are dry. Branch snaps in the trees behind the pit. You freeze. There's a low chuffing sound, a breath, a growl. Then silence. You squint, struggling to see anything past the screen. Moonlight filters through thick leaves. Your fingers twitch on the spear, and then you see it. It moves like water, like flowing smoke made of fur and malice. Muscles ripple under striped skin. It doesn't walk. It glides right toward the goat. Your throat closes. The goat lets out a final bleat, more a whimper than a cry, and the tiger leaps. There's a sickening crack as the pit trap collapses under its weight. You wait for the sound of bamboo tearing through flesh. Instead, nothing. Your breath catches. Thin a roar, not like the ones you've heard in stories. This is real. It's fury and pain and insult wrapped in one sound, and it shakes the trees. The pit didn't kill it, it injured it. You peek from your hiding spot. The tiger is thrashing inside the pit, blood soaking into the soil. One bamboo stake has pierced its leg, another grazed its ribs. But its iced host burning amber eye locked on you. You lock up. The spear falls from your hands. The tiger thrashes again and climbs out. You scream. Men come running. Torches, shouting, arrows. The tiger limps back into the green, leaving behind only blood, a dead goat, and your shaking form curled in the grass. You're carried back to the village like a fallen soldier. You weren't brave. You tell them. You dropped your spear. You froze. But they say you survived. Not everyone does. Over the next few days, the elders double their efforts. New traps are built. They switch strategies. No more bait goats, not until they figure out how to kill without just angering the beast. You learn how to set a spring snare, a tricky device that uses a bent sapling and a noose made from braided vine. When triggered, the sapling whips upright, hoisting the prey hopefully the into the air. You practice on small animals. It works well on rabbits. Not quite the same scale, but better than nothing. The older hunters prepare tiger board snarrer, planks with rows of iron spikes, hammered through. The spikes are sharp, upward pointing, and hidden under leaves. They're laid out in patterns near suspected tiger paths. Hoping the beast will step on one and bleed out slowly. It's gruesome, but necessary. A fringe practice, mostly oral history stuff. Involves coating arrows or meat with poisons brewed from local plants, belladonna, aconite, or even scorpion venom. It's not exactly reliable. Sometimes the tiger dies days later, somewhere deep in the jungle. Other times, the poison just makes it angrier. There are other tales, too, of hunters using mirrors. Yes, mirrors. Tiny polished metal discs, hung from trees to reflect light and confuse the tiger. Some believe that the reflection of its own face frightens it. Others claim it lures the beast, thinking it's another rival. You're not sure what to believe. But one morning, you see something new. A traveling hunter. He's not from your village. He arrives barefoot, carrying a bow longer than your arm and a bundle of tools wrapped in oiled cloth. His hair is tied in a knot. His eyes are tired but calm. He offers no name, just a trade. I will try to kill the tiger. If I succeed, I take its skin. The elders agree. They just want it gone. You're assigned to help him. Fetch firewood. Boil water. Listen. He teaches you without words. When he walks, the leaves barely rustle. When he sits, even the birds forget to fear him. You think he might be part jungle. His traps are different. No deep pits. No mirrors. Just thin rope. Long needles. And something that looks like a metal jaw with teeth. Tiger steps here. He finally explains. Setting the jaw trap. Foot gets caught. Can't run. You ask him, what if it sees the trap? He smiles. Then we try again. The patience of a tiger hunter is different. It's not brave, not foolish. It's just still. Like stone waiting for moss. That night, you lie awake. The image of the injured tiger clawing its way out of the pit still burned into your brain. Its eyes haunt your dreams. Not because they were full of rage, but because they were full of understanding. It knew what you were doing. It wasn't fooled. Not for long. By morning. The trap is triggered but empty. The metal teeth are blood-stained, the ropes shredded. You find tufts of striped fur nearby, and deeper into the jungle, drag marks. The tiger is still alive, wounded, cornered, and now very, very angry. You're told to stay in the village for the next few days, but you can't sleep. You sit on your rooftop, spear across your lap, watching the green sway in the wind, waiting, because you know something now. Tigers in the Middle Ages weren't killed in a single night. They were hunted across seasons, across lifetimes, and sometimes they hunted back. Night again. That familiar shiver begins to crawl up your spine as the sun slips behind the trees, bleeding its last golden light into the jungle's greedy shadows. The fires are already burning in a wide ring around the village, and your spurner, smoothed from countless hours of clutching, is close at hand. You've been assigned to the night watch. You're not alone, thank goodness. Two older men share the duty with you tonight. One is Narration, who claims to have once fought off a tiger with a rake. The other is Bunchai, quieter, and constantly chewing some bitter-smelling root that supposedly wards off bad spirits. You suspect it's just because he likes the taste. The village has shifted into a new rhythm. Everyone's sleeping in tighter clusters. Children are kept close. Livestock is herded into makeshift enclosures ringed with thorny branches and ear circles. Of fire. The ring of fire is essential. It isn't ceremonial. It isn't dramatic. It's practical. Tigers hate flames. Or, at least, that's what every hunter claims. Whether it's true is debated even now. Historians argue whether fire truly repelled tigers or just gave villagers the illusion of safety. But you don't argue with a crackling wall of safety when you're staring into a forest, known to eat people, and you've seen what happens when the ring is incomplete. One villager, a woodcutter, got lazy last week. He banked his fire low, thought the tiger wouldn't return after being injured. He was wrong. You found him the next morning, or rather, what was left? A slipper, a smear, and that strange, deep silence that always hangs in the air after a kill. Tonight, no one is taking chances. The fire ring crackles. Spears stand in a pile nearby. You hold a torch in your offhand and trace lazy circles in the dirt with the tip of your weapon. You've gotten good at pretending you're not scared. The routine is simple. Patrol the ring. Watch the tree line. Listen for sudden stillness. Tigers move in silence. Yes, but nature doesn't. When birds go quiet, when frogs stop croaking, that's your warning bell. Tonight, the frogs are loud. Bunchai squats near the southern edge, watching the brush. He hums a little tune, old and strange. Something his mother taught him, maybe. Narayan stretches and yawns so hard his jaw cracks. You want to laugh, but the mood doesn't quite allow it. You all stay quiet for a while. The goat pen rattles, just the animals shifting in their sleep. Maybe. You walk the perimeter again. To be a night watcher in the Middle Ages is to live suspended between exhaustion and terror. You don't do this because you're strong. You do it because you're needed. Because there's no wall, no gun, no safety net. You have to be the wall. And the wall can't sleep. Suddenly, Bunchai raises a hand. You freeze. No sound. Not even frogs. Something's out there. You strain your ears. The fire crackles like a nervous heartbeat. Then you hear it. A slow shuffle of dry leaves. Not the grace of a tiger. Something else. Something two-legged. A traveler. You grip your spear. Motion to narration. He raises his own weapon and stands tall. A shape moves between the trees, then stumbles into the FIRELIGHT. It's one of your own hunters, bleeding, barefoot, eyes wide with something beyond fear. The trap failed. He gasps. It's following me. Before anyone can speak, a roar splits the night. You see it then just beyond the firelight. A flash of stripes, a snarl like tearing cloth. The goat pen erupts in panic. You and the others don't think. You move. You shout. You wave torches. You beat the metal pans hung around the enclosure just for this moment. The fire dances wildly as feet pound the dirt. The tiger bolts, vanishing into the darkness. No casualties, but close. Everyone shaken. The hunter collapses. His leg is torn, not deep, but bleeding. You help carry him to the healer's hut, and he tells you the whole story. The tiger doubled back. It avoided to traps, circled him for half a day. Never a tacagist. Watched. Studying. Is that real? Could a tiger really learn how to outsmart humans? Science today says tigers are clever. Yes, but not strategic thinkers. Still, your gut tells you otherwise. This one is no ordinary beast. You sit with the wounded man until dawn, and you realize something. This isn't just a predator. It's a game of chess, and you're still learning the rules. The village elders gather again at daybreak. Everyone's sleep deprived. Everyone's angry. The argument is the same. Do you retreat deeper into the village, or go on the offensive? Some suggest building wooden barricades. Others want to move the whole village temporarily. But then comes a proposal from one of the oldest men, who barely speaks anymore. He rasps, more fire. Not just the usual ring. He means barriers of fire, torches lining the walkways, bonfires lit at staggered intervals, smoke trails meant to obscure scent trails, flaming braziers around the animal pens. You help build them. By that night, your village glows like a festival, but there's no music, just tension. You start to notice the fire's other effects. Mosquitoes retreat. The smoke dampens the sharpness of scent. The animals sleep easier, and so far no tiger. For 3 nights. Then 5. You think maybe the fire trick worked. Then, on the 6th night, a girl goes missing. She had gone to the stream at dusk. A quick errand. She didn't return. You find her slipper in the mud. Nothing else. No blood. No drag marks. Just gone. It hits the village like a punch to the chest. You helped build walls of flame. You stood watch. You learned every sound the jungle made. And still, it wasn't enough. You feel helpless, but not defeated. You sharpen your spear again. Others prepare new weapons. This time, with fire on them touches bound to spears, javelins with cloth-wrapped, oil-soaked heads. If the tiger hates fire, maybe it'll hate flaming steel even more. It's risky. One wrong swing and your own clothes could catch. But you're ready. You also begin training with the dogs. Yes, the village has dogs, usually for herding. But now they've been taught to bark at specific scents. Hunters collect old scraps of bloodied cloth from the tiger traps and use them as training tools. The dogs learn to sniff, growl, warn. A fringe idea surface zone whispered about by only the boldest hunters, using dogs as bait. You try not to think about that. Instead, you focus on listening. Because it's not the tiger that terrifies you the most anymore. It's how close it gets without being seen. You lie awake on your watch shift. You watch the flames. You listen to the jungle. And just as your eyes start to droop, you hear it. A soft rustle. Not far. And then, right behind you, on the other side of the firehouse eyes, they're back. And they're not afraid of the light anymore. Your instincts should scream. You should leap up, brandish your spear, sound the alarm. But in that moment, facing those amber eyes just across the flickering fire, your body forgets how to move. You are prey, and something ancient in your bones knows it. The tiger stares. It doesn't growl, doesn't bare its teeth. It watches, like it's trying to understand something. You blink, and it's gone. Just like that, vanished between heartbeats, as if the jungle had swallowed it back up. You whisper to the others, but no one else saw it. Only the fading heat in the air tells you it was ever real. The next morning, the mood shifts. The elders don't call a meeting. Instead, a messenger arrives. He's wearing crimson robes, ringed with gold thread. His voice is trained and measured, the kind used in royal courts. His words fall like carefully placed coins. The Maharaja invites you to join the royal hunt. And just like that, everything changes. See, out here, you hunt tigers to survive. But in the world of kings and emperors, tigers are sport, spectacle, a measure of one's greatness. In medieval Persia, for example, tiger hunts were performed as demonstrations of strength, often by royal decree. In the courts of Chinese emperors, tiger hunting was sometimes ritualized part of military training or spiritual protection rites. And in India, well before the colonial period, Maharajas organized elaborate expeditions that bordered on theater. Your village exists on the fringe of that world. But now, you're being invited. Any the hunter who had failed to trap the tiger, turns out he carried royal connections. He returned not just injured, but carrying a story, a clever tiger, one that had outsmarted every trap, a worthy foe. To the Maharaja, this isn't a problem. It's a challenge. Preparations begin. You've never seen such grandeur in your life. The royal hunting party arrives in a parade of silk and steel. Dozens of guards, musicians, servants, cooks, even astrologers, brightly decorated horses and armored elephants. Some of the warriors carry matchlocks, early gunpowder weapons, but most prefer tradition. Bows, spears, and scimitars etched with prayers. You feel small, a speck of soot in a firework display. But you're not dismissed. You are now an observer, maybe a helper. definitely expendable. The head of the hunt is a general named Bayarav. He's built like a statubrode, bearded, eyes like flint. He doesn't smile much, but when he hears your account of the tiger, he listens. Intelligent. He says, "Scarred." You nod. He seems pleased. Perfect. For the Maharaja. Hunting such a tiger isn't about meat or fur. It's about dominance. In some royal courts, a slain tiger's head was mounted beneath the throne, proof that the king ruled not only men, but beasts. You hear whispers that this tiger, if caught, will be presented as an omen evidence that the ruler was chosen by divine favor. It's not about the tiger at all. It's about myth. Over the next 3 days, the royal camp becomes a small city, tents the size of your house. Persian rugs spread over jungle soil, perfumed incense burners wafting sandalwood into humid air. There's even a cook fire producing something that smells like cinnamon and goat stew. You try not to drool. Meanwhile, the Maharaja arrives in style, gold-trimmed, palanquin, peacocks trotting behind. He steps out like he owns the sun, flicks a ringed hand, and declares, "We shall have the beast by week's end." He is very confident for someone who's never seen those eyes. The tiger, of course, does not care about his gold or titles. The hunt begins at dawn. You're seated high on a howdah platform on an elephant's back next to 2 archers and a drum. Boy, the drum isn't for rhythm. It's for war. Each beat echoes through the trees like a warning shot. Come out, beast. Show us what you are. The tiger, predictably, does not comply. But that doesn't mean the hunt is quiet. No, it's chaos. Dozens of beaters, villagers, soldiers, and drummers crash through the underbrush, creating a wall of noise and scent. The idea is to push the tiger toward the hunters. You've seen similar tactics used with boar hunts. But this isn't a pig. This is something else entirely. Still, it almost works. By noon, the beast has been spotted once, twice, 3 times. A flush of orange, a snapping branch, a blood trail. It's clearly wounded from one of the earlier traps, and it's angry. At one point, the tiger charges a group of beaters to escape. One doesn't. The royal guard covers the death quickly. The boy's name isn't spoken. Just another casualty of spectacle. The tiger vanishes again. Bayarav is furious. The Maharaja less so. We want drama. He chuckles. Let it dance for us. And so the hunt becomes theatre. Each evening, the nobles drink spiced wine and share tales of mythical tiger battles. One man claims to have fought a white tiger under a full moon, and won by stabbing it with a dagger carved from its own tooth. You don't ask questions. Instead, you wander the edge of the camp, watching the hunters rework their tactics. They build viewing platforms over likely tiger trails. They station archers in trees, hidden beneath leaves. They lace bait animals with silver bells, so they'll ring out if snatched in the night. The idea isn't to stop the tiger. It's to catch it in the act. That night, the bells chime. Everyone rushes to the southern line. You arrive breathless and find carnage. A goat, torn clean in half. The ground churned by claws. The bell still ringing. hanging from the creature's severed neck. But there's more. A message, etched into the soil with a claw or a stick, is a symbol, a spiral, meaningless to most. But one of the older astrologers gasps. It's the sign of Calica. He whispers, destruction. The next day, half the nobles leave. Bad omen, they say. But Bhairav doubles down. He lays tiger boards under the bait. He fills clay pots with flammable oil and stations them at likely crossing points. One spark, and the jungle goes up. You're now on fire patrol. A teenage villager with a spear, expected to keep an eye on flaming bombs. This is your life now. But the tiger doesn't attack that night, or the next. Some think it's moved on. Others think it's watching. You know the truth. It's waiting. You speak with the astrologer who recognized the symbol. He tells you of an old belief fringe now, but still whispered the tigers who survive. Human traps become charmed, unkillable. They carry the rage of gods. Their eyes can curse. Their blood cannot be spilled without consequence. You laugh at first, but the look he gives you silences that. You looked into its eyes. He says, you already know. On the final morning, the Maharaja orders a last. Push. No bait. No traps. Just men, steel, and fire. The tiger is cornered by a ridgy dead end. The beaters form a line. The archers climb. Bhairav leads the charge. You stay near the rear, holding a torch. When the tiger breaks from the underbrush, it doesn't run. It leaps right into the front line. It takes down 2 men before they can react. A third slices its shoulder. The tiger spins, limping but furious. It meets Bhairav in the clearing. They face off, spear against claw. You can barely breathe. The general charges. The tiger ducks, sidesteps, and lashes out. Blood sprays. Bhairav falls, and Thena shot. One of the nobles with a matchlock fires. The sound is like thunder. The tiger jerks back. Hit, you can't tell. But it limps into the trees. Disappears once more. The Maharaja calls off the hunt. Not because he's afraid, but because the drama is over. Let the jungle have its prince, he says, and leaves by dusk. You're left behind. No fanfare, no reward. But you remember those eyes, and you know this isn't over. Night again. That familiar shiver begins to crawl up your spine as the sun slips behind the trees, bleeding its last golden light into the jungle's greedy shadows. The fires are already burning in a wide ring around the village, and your spurno, smoothed from countless hours of clutching, is close at hand. You've been assigned to the night watch. You're not alone, thank goodness. 2 older men share the duty with you tonight. One is Narayan, who claims to have once fought off a tiger with a rake. The other is Bunchai, quieter, and constantly chewing some bitter-smelling root that supposedly wards off bad spirits. You suspect it's just because he likes the taste. The village has shifted into a new rhythm. Everyone's sleeping in tighter clusters. Children are kept close. Livestock is herded into makeshift enclosures ringed with thorny branches and ear circles. Of fire. The ring of fire is essential. It isn't ceremonial. It isn't dramatic. It's practical. Tigers hate flames. Or, at least, that's what every hunter claims. Whether it's true is debated even now. Historians argue whether fire truly repelled tigers or just gave villagers the illusion of safety. But you don't argue with a crackling wall of safety when you're staring into a forest. Known to eat people, and you've seen what happens when the ring is incomplete. One villager, a woodcutter, got lazy last week. He banked his fire low, thought the tiger wouldn't return after being injured. He was wrong. You found him the next morning, or rather, what was left? A slipper, a smear, and that strange, deep silence that always hangs in the air after a kill. Tonight, no one is taking chances. The fire ring crackles. Spears stand in a pile nearby. You hold a torch in your offhand and trace lazy circles in the dirt with the tip of your weapon. You've gotten good at pretending you're not scared. The routine is simple. Patrol the ring. Watch the tree line. Listen for sudden stillness. Tigers move in silence. Yes, but nature doesn't. When birds go quiet, when frogs stop croaking, that's your warning bell. Tonight, the frogs are loud. Boonchai squats near the southern edge, watching the brush. He hums a little tune, old and strange. Something his mother taught him, maybe. Narayan stretches and yawns so hard his jaw cracks. You want to laugh, but the mood doesn't quite allow it. You all stay quiet for a while. The goat pen rattles, just the animals shifting in their sleep. Maybe. You walk the perimeter again. To be a night watcher in the Middle Ages is to live suspended between exhaustion and terror. You don't do this because you're strong. You do it because you're needed. Because there's no wall, no gun, no safety net. You have to be the wall. And the wall can't sleep. Suddenly, Boonchai raises a hand. You freeze. No sound. Not even frogs. Something's out there. You strain your ears. The fire crackles like a nervous heartbeat. Then you hear it. A slow shuffle of dry leaves. Not the grace of a tiger. Something else. Something two-legged. A traveler. You grip your spear. Motion to Narayan. He raises his own weapon and stands tall. A shape moves between the trees, then stumbles into the FIRELIGHT. It's one of your own hunters, bleeding, barefoot, eyes wide with something beyond fear. The trap failed. He gasps. It's following me before anyone can speak. A roar splits the night. You see it then just beyond the firelight. A flash of stripes, a snarl like tearing cloth. The goat pen erupts in panic. You and the others don't think. You move. You shout. You wave torches. You beat the metal pans hung around the enclosure just for this moment. The fire dances wildly as feet pound the dirt. The tiger bolts, vanishing into the darkness. No casualties, but close. Everyone shaken. The hunter collapses. His leg is torn, not deep, but bleeding. You help carry him to the healer's hut, and he tells you the whole story. The tiger doubled back. It avoided to traps, circled him for half a day. Never a tacagist. Watched. Studying. Is that real? Could a tiger really learn how to outsmart humans? Science today says tigers are clever. Yes, but not strategic thinkers. Still, Your gut tells you otherwise. This one is no ordinary beast. You sit with the wounded man until dawn, and you realize something. This isn't just a predator. It's a game of chess, and you're still learning the rules. The village elders gather again at daybreak. Everyone's sleep deprived. Everyone's angry. The argument is the same. Do you retreat deeper into the village or go on the offensive? Some suggest building wooden barricades. Others want to move the whole village temporarily. But then comes a proposal from one of the oldest men, who barely speaks anymore. He rasps, "More fire." Not just the usual ring. He means barriers of fire, torches lining the walkways, bonfires lit at staggered intervals, smoke trails meant to obscure scent trails, flaming braziers around the animal pens. You help build them by that night. Your village glows like a festival, but there's no music, just tension. You start to notice the fire's other effects. Mosquitoes retreat. The smoke dampens the sharpness of scent. The animals sleep easier, and so far no tiger. For 3 nights then 5. You think maybe the fire trick worked. Then, on the 6th night, a girl goes missing. She had gone to the stream at dusk. A quick errand. She didn't return. You find her slipper in the mud. Nothing else. No blood. No drag marks. Just gone. It hits the village like a punch to the chest. You helped build walls of flame. You stood watch. You learned every sound the jungle made. And still, it wasn't enough. You feel helpless, but not defeated. You sharpen your spear again. Others prepare new weapons. This time, with fire on them, touches bound to spears. Javelins with cloth-wrapped, oil-soaked heads. If the tiger hates fire, maybe it'll hate flaming steel even more. It's risky. One wrong swing and your own clothes could catch. But you're ready. You also begin training with the dogs. Yes, the village has dogs, usually for herding. But now, they've been taught to bark at specific scents. Hunters collect old scraps of bloodied cloth from the tiger traps and use them as training tools. The dogs learn to sniff, growl, warn. A fringe idea surfacing whispered about by only the boldest hunters, using dogs as bait. You try not to think about that. Instead, you focus on listening. Because it's not the tiger that terrifies you the most anymore. It's how close it gets without being seen. You lie awake on your watch shift. You watch the flames. You listen to the jungle. And just as your eyes start to droop, you hear it. A soft rustle. Not far. And then, right behind you, on the other side of the firehouse eyes, they're back. And they're not afraid of the light anymore. The tiger wrote your name. That's not metaphor. That's not poetry. That's not it looked like a name or maybe a kid playing a prank. No, you saw it with your own eyes, for claw marks, deliberate and clean, dragging letters into the soft mud like a signature. Your name, unmistakable, in your language, not a symbol, not a glyph. Your name, and you haven't slept since, because if a tiger can write your name, well, either the world just got a lot more magical, or you've gone entirely mad. Neither is comforting. You spend the day in a fog, avoiding the path near the jungle, avoiding your own thoughts. You catch your reflection in a bowl of water and flinch. You're not the same person anymore. You were just a villager, a would-be hunter, one among many. But now, the tiger knows who you are. No one else believes you. Of course, your grandmother goes quiet. The hunters make nervous jokes. A younger boy dares you to prove it. But you can't, because the next time you check, the mud's been washed clean by the rain. Of course it has. But you still feel watched. And not just by eyes in the trees, by something deeper. You become convinced the tiger's not just a beast, it's a message, a force, a reckoning. And that makes you dangerous, because now you're thinking like the old cults. Back in the day, hunters learned to tell the difference between killing a tiger and facing the tiger. It wasn't always about conquest. Sometimes it was about balance. But not everyone has your patience. Word comes that in the city-state of Ununtade's east through the jungle, a man has returned from the mountains with a legendary weapon. A tiger, dagger, bone-handled, pattern-welded steel, serrated on one side like the teeth of a crocodile. They say it was forged in the fires of a fallen star. Probably just a really well-made knife. But here's the twist. It's not for sale. The man didn't bring it to boast. He brought it because he's hunting the one who wrote the name. You don't know how he heard about you. You don't know who told him. But a hunter is coming. Not one of your kind. Not from your village. This one is different. He doesn't wear charms. He doesn't pray. He doesn't joke. His name is Ravi, and he's famous in the way that only killers become famous in the Middle Ages, through whispers, through scars, through a trail of empty dens and sleeping villages. He's known as the Night Echo because he doesn't hunt the tiger when it's awake. He hunts it in its sleep. And something about that feels wrong, because if there is something divine about this tiger, if it really does remember faces, carry names, warn its enemies, then maybe it's not the kind of creature you should kill with a sneak attack. Maybe that's the kind of thing you let the gods handle. Still, Ravi arrives. Tall, tanned like leather, eyes like polished glass. Doesn't look like he's ever blinked. He doesn't speak much, just stares at you. And then at the jungle. You try to warn him, this isn't a normal tiger. Tell him what it did. Tell him what it knows. He listens, then smiles. I don't hunt tigers, he says. I hunt the stories people wrap around them. UGH. Cool line, terrible attitude. He sets up camp near the edge of the trees. No torch, no fire. Just sits there sharpening his dagger on a stone the size of your fist. KSSHHH. KSSHHH. Over and over. You don't know. What's worse, the sound of the blade or the silence in between? That night, someone disappears, a woman from the next village over, coming to deliver baskets of dried plums. Her mule returns. She does and single quotes T. Ravi says nothing, just keeps sharpening. You know it wasn't the tiger. It wouldn't be this quiet. It wouldn't take her. Unless, of course, she saw something she shouldn't have. Your grandmother starts praying. Again. This time to you. I saw the mark. She whispers one night. I know what it means. You don't ask what she saw. You just nod. She hands you a tiny amulet. made of tiger whiskers wrapped in copper thread. If you see it again, don't run. Speak your name. Own it. That's how you show it you're awake. That sounds suspiciously like cult logic again. But hey, at this point, you'll try anything. The next day, Ravi leaves without a word. He slips into the jungle, tiger dagger strapped across his back. You want to follow, part of you needs to follow. But you don single quotes T dot instead. You wait. 3 days pass dot no sign. No sounds. No footprints stop then. Just before dawn, a boy from the north comes sprinting into town. Breathless. Wild dash-eyed dot, he says he found a body dot no blood. No wounds. No damage. Just a corpse. Curled up beneath a banyan tree like it had been tucked in for sleep. It's Ravi. He's holding the dagger, and it's covered in his own fingerprints burned into the steel like acid. Nobody can explain it. No bite marks, no broken bones. His face isn't twisted in fear, just peace. The kind of peace people used to say only came from seeing a god. Your grandmother says the tiger didn't kill him. She says the spirit of the tiger judged him. And that might be worse. Historians still argue whether these stories are moral allegories or distorted truths meant to scare hunters into respecting boundaries. But in your village, it doesn't matter. A man tried to hunt the tiger, and now he sleeps forever. No one touches the dagger. It's left exactly where he fell. You visit it once. Days later, when the jungle has gone oddly still, you crouch by the body, which hasn't decayed. You touch the hilt. It's warm. And when you whisper your name into the silence, the leaves rustle, not from wind. From breath. You don't run, you just lower your head, close your eyes, and listen. And in the hush, you hear something walking, away not toward the village, but deeper, deeper into a jungle you'll never fully understand. Back home, your people stop calling it a monster. They call it a Jagara again. Not just the tiger. The idea, the reminder, that nature doesn't forget, that balance watches, that sometimes killing isn't victory, it's interruption. You're not a hunter anymore. You're a messenger. And the message is this: leave the tiger alone. Let it sleep. A week has passed since Ravi's body was found beneath the banyan tree. And while the villagers now whisper his name like a cautionary tale, the jungle doesn't seem to care. It breathes, sways, and sings just as it always has, crickets sawing. In the dusk, tree frogs clicking from the canopy, the occasional call of a hornbill cutting through thick, humming heat. But for you, nothing is the same. You feel like you've been changed on a cellular level, like the jungle opened a secret page in its book and let you peek at a sentence or two. Just enough to confuse you, just enough to make you question whether the world is as simple as meat, fire, and shelter. Because now, you know, some tigers don't just bite, some decide. You don't talk about it anymore, or not out loud. At least, everyone saw the body. Everyone saw the dagger. That was enough for them. But not for you. You can't stop thinking about how the tiger passed judgment, about whether you are next. And yet, part of you is curious, which is why, one night, you wander back to the ruins. The ones buried beyond the silk trees, where the old cults used to chant beneath moonlight and leave bowls of goat blood for something they called the flame that walks. You've heard stories. Everyone has. But you always assumed it was just theatrical religion, a little pageantry to scare children and excuse disappearances. But now, you're not so sure. You pass a moss-choked statue, broken. One paw still outstretched like it's guarding something. Another shrine, more intact, shows a tiger coiled around a sleeping man, its tail curling like smoke. You kneel there, not sure what to do. You don't have an offering, no bowl, no words dot, so you just sit and whisper your name. A breeze tickles your ear in reply, but nothing else. No vision, no claws, just the feeling of being watched softly, not with hunger, but with recognition. That's when you spot it. A piece of carved bone, wedged between roots, small, rounded, a pendant. Maybe you brush it off. It's etched with a spiral, not a decorative one. This isn't for show. This is the kind of spiral that invites your eye to follow. Inward, inward, inward. You pocket it and leave. You don't speak a word about it, but it keeps you company like a secret. The villagers notice you're quiet, but chalk it up to grief or reverence. They don't know about the pendant. They don't know that later that night, you dream of a tiger who asks before it hunts. Meanwhile, across the riverlands, stories keep spreading. Tigers appearing in daylight, watching, sitting, not attacking, just present. It's strange, because historically, tigers in the Middle Ages avoided human settlement unless starving or provoked. Most records from Persian manuscripts to South Indian temple carvings depict tigers as rare, elusive, and deeply territorial. And yet now, they're acting differently. One farmer reports a tiger walked past his cattle and sat beside a shrine for 2 full hours, tail twitching like it was waiting for an appointment. Another claims a tiger dropped a deer carcass at her front door and vanished without a trace, as though repaying a debt. Historians still argue whether these tales were signs of animal adaptation, mass hysteria, or coded spiritual resistance against invading empires. But in your village, they just say this: the jungle remembers what you forget, which brings you to the monk. He arrives one morning without fanfareno horse, no cart, just sandals, a bamboo staff, and a robe the color of river silt. His name is Mahaj. He doesn't say much, but he knows things he shouldn't, like where Ravi fell, like what the claw marks spelled, like the story of the tiger that burned a hunter's name into a tree with its eyes. He isn't scared, not exactly, but he respects what's happening, and he has questions. He wants to know what you saw, what you felt, how the tiger moved, where it stood, what it smelled like. You answer carefully. He listens like a man putting together a puzzle no one asked for. He tells you something strange. There is a pattern. Every 76 years, tigers begin to appear in dreams. First 2 children, then elders, then the dying dot, and then one tiger learns to remember. They called it Pindara. He says softly, the tiger that carries old debts. You raise an eyebrow. He explains, long ago, when humans first tamed fire, they made a deal. not with gods, but with predators. We would steal the night, but only if we remembered what we took. And every few generations, one predator rises not to hunt, but to test. If we forget, it takes. If we remember, it waits. You want to laugh, but you don't, because something about it feels familiar. The monk says the tiger you saw isn't hunting prey, it's hunting amnesia. Looking for the moment where we started thinking of nature as optional. Looking for you. He tells you not to run. He gives you a bowl of crushed lotus seed and water dyed with lamp soot. Leave it at the banyan tree, he says, and say this: I remember the trade. Then leave. You follow his instructions, and that night you don't dream of claws. You dream of breath, warm, heavy, coiling behind your ear like incense. You wait to find your pendant glowing faintly, not with light, but with weight. It wants to be carried. From that day, strange things begin to happen. Not dramatic, just odd. Birds land near you and don't fly away. Dogs stop barking when you pass. The jungle quiets as you walk its edge. And the hunters? They leave you alone now, because now you're marked. You don't wear war paint. You don't wear fangs. You don't walk with bravado. But they treat you the way people treat cliffs, cautiously, respectfully. Distantly. One even whispers. He speaks to tigers before backing away. You don't confirm or deny, because truthfully, you're not sure anymore who's speaking to whom. All you know is this: the tiger is still out there, not hunting, not hiding. Waiting. And whatever it's waiting for, it involves you. Morning. It arrives in a golden hush, warm and thick with jungle steam. The kind that makes your skin feel damp before you've even moved. You sit at the edge of the village, legs dangling over the rice terrace, watching a pair of beaters dance along a branch. Their wings catch the light, brilliant green and impossible to follow. And for just a moment, things feel normal. Then comes the sound. Not a roar, not yet, but a deep, dragging from of movement in the underbrush. The trees shift with purpose. Something big is pushing through, and the birds all go silent at once. You freeze, but you don't run. You've stopped doing that. By the time the others hear it, you're already walking toward the edge of the forest. There's a new hunter in the region, a man from another province, rumored to have killed 5 tigers with nothing but a weighted spear and a loyal pack of dogs. You've heard his name, Erim. No titles, no rituals, just that single syllable passed from village to village, like a warning and a challenge all in one. Aaron believes tigers can be outthought, that they can be out-no ised. So he brings his tools, not just spears and arrows, but drums, big ones, hollowed from tree trunks and stretched with cured buffalo skin. His men beat them constantly, sending sound waves out like rolling thunder. He says the rhythm disorients big cats, makes them panic, and it sort of works. Sometimes. Other times, it just angers them. But Aaron doesn't care. He has something the other hunters lack: control. He walks with 10 trained dogs, lean, muscular beasts with short cropped ears and coats marked with charcoal stripes. They don't bark, they don't yip, they move with eerie precision, responding. to whistles and gestures like extensions of his body. You watch from a distance as they march toward the southern clearing. He's baited it with a cow carcass and scattered ash to hide human scent. The drums are already pounding, steady and deep, and the air vibrates with tension. But you notice something else. The wind's wrong. The tiger won't come from the direction he expects. You shake your head. Historically, dogs have always been part of tiger hunts. Chinese scrolls from the Song dynasty depict nobles flanked by hounds. In Persia, they were bred specifically to detect tigers before the naked eye could spot them. In some parts of Southeast Asia, hunters would paint their dogs to resemble baby tigers just to bait in an adult. The ethics of this? Let's just say medieval animal rights weren't a thing. But there's a deeper trick to it. To distraction, tigers aren't easily cornered. They don't get flustered. But even the smartest predator has to blink. And in that blink, a wall of barking. Snarling dogs can buy a man enough time to throw a net, or aim a spear, or run like hell. It's not elegant, but it works. Unless the tiger is smarter than the dogs. Unless it sees through the noise. Aaron's men beat their drums louder. A sharp whistle. Dogs fan out in a crescent, trained to close on the first flick of a tail. But nothing happens. Minutes pass. Sweat pools beneath their tunics. The air thickens. The trees sway. But the forest stays mute. Then, without warning, the tiger appears. It doesn't charge. It walks. Calmly. Deliberately. Not from the baited side, but from the opposite ridge, where no one thought to look. It pauses just outside the clearing, eyes reflecting gold. Coat so clean and symmetrical it looks like it was combed by gods. And it sits. The dogs freeze. Then one barks a short, confused yelp. The tiger doesn't flinch, doesn't blink. It just watches. You feel it first, that tension behind your eyes. Like a headache made of silence. Then it happens. The lead dog turns and walks away. The second follows. In under a minute, the pack disbands. No barking, no resistance. They simply leave. Aram shouts. Furious, he slams the butt of his spear into the ground, calls the dogs by name. They don't respond. And the tiger, gone. Like smoke. You don't speak. You just leave before Aram spots you. Something tells you he wouldn't take your presence well, right? Now, that night, you dream again, but this time not of teeth or breath or fire. This time, it's drums, rhythmic, heavy, and beneath them, laughter. Not mocking, just a knowing. You wake sweating, heart pounding, and for once you understand. The tiger is playing, and it's winning. Back in the village, things begin to shift. People start building shrines against more ones, hurriedly carved from banana leaves and clay, placed near doorways and well stones. Offerings multiply, not just meat, but mirrors, hair, teeth. A child swears they saw a tiger reflection in their wash basin. Another says a tiger whispered their name. It sounds ridiculous. But is it? In medieval India, tiger spirits were sometimes believed to slip between worlds, neither dead nor alive, but hovering just close enough to be heard. In Tibetan lore, Tigers carried messages from ghosts to the living. Some Mongol shamans believed certain tigers could become wind, slipping into dreams to scout out worthy warriors. Historians still argue whether these myths came from actual sightings or were metaphorical warnings: behave, or the tiger will come. But here, now, no one's joking. People start sleeping with sandals on, not for running but for respect, as if to say, we're ready if you arrive. Even the chickens are quieter, but one old woman Kamash is not afraid. She remembers the last time this happened. You sit with her one dusk, helping grind rice paste while she hums a tune older than fire. She tells you stories of the stripe-faced judge who used to prowl the edge of the mango grove, of her uncle who said a tiger spoke through his newborn son, of the time the well water ran black, and every rooster crowed in reverse. You laugh. Softly, she doesn't. She presses a dried flower into your hand and says, if it gives you a choice, bow first. Aaron leaves 2 days later. He doesn't speak to anyone, just vanishes before dawn, dogs in tow, drums left behind like broken promises. In his place arrives something stranger, a traveler in white robes, pulling a cart full of nets. But not just any nets. You've seen fish nets, boar nets, even vine traps. But these, they're embroidered with text, old script, maybe Sanskrit or older. Lines upon lines of verse woven into every knot. He tells you they're binding words that a net with language is stronger than one with rope. Alone, words catch. Minds, he says, and sometimes tigers think like minds. You're not sure if he's mad or brilliant. But that night, he sets up one of the nets beneath the flowering neem tree and waits. You visit him at midnight. He offers you tea made from roasted orchid roots and tells you a tiger once asked him to stop hunting. You smile politely. He doesn't, she said. I remember the trade, just like that, and I dropped my spear. You don't ask who she was. You just watch the net sway gently in the wind, and for a moment it looks like it's breathing. You start noticing it more often now. The way wind moves only when you're not looking. The way shadows wait. The way the pendant around your neck feels warmer whenever you're near the banyan. And more than anything, the silences. The moments when every bird goes still. When the entire jungle seems to hold its breath, waiting for a verdict. You used to think survival meant winning. Now you're starting to suspect survival means understanding and maybe, just maybe, listening. The silence stretches. Not just a pause between birdsong or a lull in the crickets, but something deeper. Like the jungle itself has closed its eyes. You felt this before. It means the tiger is near. But today, the air is different. Less menace, more curiosity. Like you're being watched not with hunger, but with a kind of patient amusement. You don't run, not anymore. Instead, you slip your sandals on and follow the path that winds behind the banana grove, past the old shrine with the broken-eyed idol, and into the deeper forest, where the light changes color green, filtering through layers of vine and leaf until everything feels underwater. Here's the thing. Tigers don't want to be found. That's their whole bit. They don't announce themselves. They don't leave trails like wolves or rustle like boars. They move like ghosts wrapped in muscle. But you've changed. You walk quieter now. You breathe slower. You no longer bring metal or fire, only a slingshot tucked into your waistband and a pouch of crushed leaves that smell like camphor. And dusk. And you're not alone. Two other hunters walk with you young, silent, barefoot. They've trained under the priest warrior sect, a wandering brotherhood of tiger hunters who see the jungle as sacred and the tiger as an ordained rival, not evil, not even dangerous, really, just part of the game. One of them, a lock, carries a whip, not for the tiger, but for himself. He believes pain sharpens the senses. The other, Wren, wears a necklace made of shark teeth, even though he's never seen the sea. He says they remind him to be quicker than Jaws. You believe him. Together, you step into the circle path. It's a trap of sorts, but not the kind with snares or pits. It's a ring carved into the jungle, about 30 feet across, flattened and cleared. At its center, nothing but a single stool, low, wooden, carved from sacred fig. The idea, you sit, you wait. And if the tiger comes, you don't move, not even a blink. The circle path is part of an old ritual, whispered about in crumbling texts from the Vijayanagara Empire, and painted in fading frescoes deep in ruined temples. The technique is called Viagravua, the tiger's arrangement. The theory goes like this. If you become part of the jungle, the tiger will not harm you. If you carry no threat, no scent of fear, and if you look it in the eye without flinching, it will acknowledge you and leave. If it doesn't, well, then you won't need to worry about anything again. Historians still argue whether Viagravua was ever truly practiced, or just a myth layered over meditation practices. Some say it was an initiation. Others claim it was a punishment, a final chance to prove you belonged. You sit, back straight, legs folded. The stool creaks once. The world sharpens. No drums this time. No dogs. No nets embroidered with riddles. Just breath and earth and 1,000 unseen eyes in the brush. Minutes pass, maybe hours. You feel it before you hear a soft thud, a paw landing on moss. Then another closer to your right. A bush quivers, but you don't turn your head. You let your peripheral vision handle it. Then, as if stitched into existence by silence. It appears. A tiger, large, older. Its fur is a darker orange than you expected, with stripes that seem to deliberate, to symmetrical, as though they were drawn by hand. Its face carries the wear of many seasons scarred over the left eye, an old wound on the shoulder. But it's proud. Regal. It stops just outside the ring. The air hangs heavy, not hot, not cold, just thick, like breath before a decision. You blink once slow, like lowering a curtain. The tiger mirrors it. Your heart drums like Aaron's did, but your body stays still. Then something impossible. It sits. Like Kemmer said. Just folds itself down, tail wrapped, neatly around its paws, head held high. And it watches you. Minutes blur. You can't tell if it's judging you or merely existing beside you. Its breathing is deep, steady. You start to match it. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. A kind of trance settles in. You forget why you're even afraid. When you blink again, it's gone. Not into the trees, not through a break in the ring. Just gone. And yet somehow you feel seen. Not prey, not predator, but recognized. You return to the village in silence. Alok and Wren don't ask questions. They only nod once, slow, respectful. Whatever happened in that circle, it changed something. The old hunter sees you from across the rice paddies and mutters. Didn't flinch, eh? You don't answer. You sleep soundly that night. But the next day brings something stranger. A boy in the next village has vanished. No signs of struggle, no paw prints, no blood. But at the edge of his sleeping mat, a single claw, clean, fresh, still warm. The villagers panic. The priest summons you. Because now they think it wasn't just a tiger. They think it was that tiger. The one with the scar. The one that vanished. The one you saw. Some believe it's a spirit, a Rakshasa in disguise. Others say it's a cursed prince. One man insists it's his wife, reincarnated that evening. You hold the claw in your hand. It's heavier than it looks, smoother. It doesn't feel like bone, it feels like promise. That night, the dreams return. But this time, there's a voice. It whispers your name over and over, in the cadence of breath and heartbeat. And with it comes a single image, the circle path again. But this time, the stool is empty. And there are 2 sets of paw prints in the dirt. Days pass. The jungle is restless. You feel it in the way the trees seem taller, the paths darker, the birds more selective in their singing. Even the monkeys seem to watch from a greater distance. You prepare, not with weapons. With stories. You sit with Kemmer again, with Alok, with the netweaver. Each tells you a different version of what it means to face the tiger. The merchant says the tiger is your ego. The priest says it's your fear. The drummer, who returned unexpectedly with only 1 dog, and a stitched-up arm, says it's just a tiger, but that's enough. You gather these fragments like stones in your pocket, because you know it's not over. You know it's coming again. And then it does. On the 7th morning after the boy disappears, just as the mist begins to burn off the hills, a shadow moves along the tree line, not fast, not sneaky. Just inevitable. You rise, you walk. You don't bring the claw. You leave it on your mat, wrapped in banana leaf. As you step into the jungle, something changes. The light bends, the air sweetens. And somewhere, far off, you hear the soft, slow thrum of a drum. But only once. As if someone's just begun to count. It doesn't feel like before. That's the first thing you notice as you cross into the trees again. Some jungle, same paths. But the air greets you differently. It no longer closes around you like a threat. This time, it parts, welcomes you. The leaves swing gently away from your shoulders as if you're not trespassing, not hunting but being summoned. You don't carry a weapon, not even a slingshot. Not even a sharp stick or a stone tucked into your belt like a child might hold onto a favorite worry pebble. The only thing in your hand is a strip of cloth torn from your own shirt white, slightly stained, tied gently around your fingers like a binding vow. You've come alone, not because you're brave, because you've been marked, and everyone in the village knows it. The claw you left behind, gone by morning. No wind could have taken it. No scavenger could have wanted it. No human touched it. But it vanished like a dead being collected, or a signature being lifted from a contract the second it's fulfilled. You don't know what it means. You just walk. And again, the forest seems quieter, not silent, alive, but hushed like an audience holding its breath just before the curtain lifts. This time, you head past the circle path, not to sit dot to meet, because the tiger ya tiger, as they've started calling Itis now a story, a myth already. Fishermen talk of its eyes glowing, like moons. Children draw it in ash and sand, always with a single scar over the left eye. The rice field workers leave out bowls of milk, even though they know tigers don't drink it. They say it's symbolic dot you pass by one of those bowls now, still warm, from the morning sun dot, and then you see her dot, yes, her. Not the tiger dot the woman. She's crouched by the roots of a massive silkarton tree, brushing something into the soil with her fingertips. You don't see what it is until you get closer. Teeth, small, smooth, white, carefully arranged in a spiral. Human, maybe, maybe not. She doesn't look up, but she speaks. You're late. Her voice is low, roughened by age or smoke, or maybe time itself. She has the kind of face that you don't remember clearly afterward. Not ugly, not beautiful, just ancient. She could be 30 or 300. You ask who she is. She ignores the question and pats the ground beside her. You sit, without asking why, because part of you already knows. This is the witch the old men whisper about, the one who fed honey to cobras and lived too. Tell about it. The one who spoke with a tiger once and lost her husband the next day. The one who gave up her name to live outside the village. She's folding a piece of parchment now. It's old, torn from a book, written in Persian. You recognize. Just one word on it, sure. Tiger. She folds it into the shape of a tiger's tooth and tucks it into her sleeve. Then she begins to speak. Not in words meant for Yao, words meant for the tiger. A prayer, a curse, a chant? It doesn't matter, because the moment the last syllable leaves her mouth, you feel it. The ground beneath you tightens. The birds vanish, and the air grows wet, like a breath on your neck. Behind you, somewhere just out of sight. The jungle kneels. You don't turn around. You don't have to. You hear the pads of its feet brushing aside leaves. You hear the slow snort of breath that smells like cinnamon and bone. The witch smiles. He's older than he looks, she says. He wants you to understand. This is not a challenge. You nod, throat dry dot, and then yes, you speak. Not confidently, not clearly, but you find your voice anyway. You tell the tiger you are not here to conquer. You're here to listen. And the moment those words leave your mouth, the tiger moves. not toward you. Beside you, it sits again. Like before, this time, the witch reaches into her pouch and pulls out a lump of resin, shaped like a small fruit. She breaks it in half and offers one to you, the other to the tiger. You hesitate. She doesn't. Neither does the tiger. It swallows the offering in one swift gulp, tongue curling around it with practiced ease. You do the same. It tastes of earth, salt, and strangely so. The witch explains. It is makura, a blend used by hunters long ago before they went into trance, meant to open the mind. Let the soul wander. Before you can ask what that means, your vision doubles, then shatters. You're standing, but you're not. You're in the jungle, but also somewhere timeless. The trees are larger, older, and the sky bleeds a shade of blue you've never seen. Before you stands the tiger bit. Now its stripes twist and flicker like moving ink. Its body is massive, wide as a carriage. Its mouth does not open, but its voice reaches you all the same. You killed me once. That's what it says. And you understand, without explanation, this is not your first life, nor its. Long ago centuries, maybe you were a hunter, and it was prey. You speared it through the eye, and ever since, the cycle has repeated. Each rebirth. The two of you orbiting, fated to find one another again. Sometimes as hunter and hunted. Sometimes as protector and danger. Sometimes as mirror and shadow. And now the tiger offers you a choice. You see its eyes. You see yourself in them. And you understand, to break the cycle, you must stop running, stop chasing, stop fearing. You nod once, and when you wake up you are alone. The witch is gone. No sign of her, no sign of the tiger, but your hand is bleeding. A thin line across your palm, like a ceremonial cut. And pressed into your skin is something far stranger. The faint outline of a paw print. Back in the village, things are quiet. To quiet. The missing boy, he's back. Found curled up beneath the banyan tree, asleep. When he wakes, he speaks of a dreamer where a giant cat carried him across rivers and mountains and laid him gently beneath the stars. He's unharmed, and suddenly, everyone sees you differently. You're not just a hunter anymore. You're part of the story. Maybe even the last one who'll need to tell it. Because after that day, the tiger isn't seen again. Not a stripe, not a footprint. Just the rustling of leaves on still afternoons. And sometimes, on hot nights, a sound like breathing in the underbrush. You live many years, long enough to train other snit to kill. But to see. To sit. To listen. Long enough to see the old drums decay in the sun. The nets fray and turn to dust. And the spears rust quietly beneath the house. Until one day, someone asks, how did people used to kill tigers? And you smile. Because now you know the truth. They didn't. They bargained. They bowed. They whispered old names under their breath and walked slowly into the dark. And simultaneously lived to whisper those names again. The monsoon returns earlier than expected. The rains come hard this year, wild and unrelenting, hammering down in waves that blur the edges of the world. Paths vanish, rivers overflow, Rice paddies disappear into mirrored lakes, and everything smells of wet leaves and wood smoke and the soft rot of too much growth to fast. You don't leave your home much. There's no hunting now, no tracking dot and no tiger dot, not for many months. But its presence lingers in the softened way people speak in the village now, in the old traps dismantled and coiled neatly beside the shrine. Even in the children's games less about conquest now, more about mimicry. One child plays the tiger, the others move through the grass around it, never attacking, only observing. The forest doesn't feel haunted anymore. It feels watched, which is maybe the same thing. You find yourself waking at odd hours, usually just before dawn, with the same sound echoing in your ears. Not a roar, not a growl, but a breath. You keep a small journal now. That's new. You don't write well, not in the formal script anyway, but you sketch. You draw leaves you find, bones, tracks, and once, without meaning to, you draw its face again, scar and all, and you realize you remember it perfectly, down to the width of its whiskers. You wonder if it remembers you, too. One night, in the third week of flooding, the village chief visits your home. He comes without his usual guards or formal robe. He's soaked, muddied from ankle to hip, and he carries something wrapped in oilcloth. You let him in. He says nothing for a while, just sits by the low fire and dries his hands. Then, without preamble, he unwraps the object. It's a blade, but not a sword, not a machete, a nail, a tiger's claw. Except this one's bound into a hilt, like a ritual dagger, ancient, blackened. The wrapping around the grip looks like it was once hair human or horse. It's hard to say. He places it before you and says, "It's time to bury it." That's all. You don't ask where it came from. You don't ask how he knew to bring it to you. You just nod. The rain continues to fall, gentle now, as if the sky is breathing between sobs. The two of you walk into the forest, not deep, just to the edge, where the vines thicken and the frogs begin their nightly sermons. You dig with your hands. No words, no prayers. Just the act of returning something that never belonged. And as this soil closes over the artifact, the rain stops. Not slowly, not gradually. It just ends, like a switch flipped somewhere in the heavens. The wind stills. The frogs pause. And then a new sound rises from the canopy. Soft, like paws on bark. Not approaching, just circling. Watching. The next morning, the sun returns. Not shyly, boldly, with that golden, sleepy brilliance that makes puddles glitter and roofs steam like tea kettles. Children run barefoot again. Birdsong floods the valley, and someone finds a print, clear, perfect, pressed into the edge of the field where the forest kisses the crops. It's unmistakably feline, but not fresh. It's already hardening like a fossil, as though it's been waiting underground and only just now decided to surface. You examine it. You place your palm over it. It's larger than before. The villagers gather around it, murmuring. But no one's afraid. The chief simply says, "He's reminding us." Weeks pass. Then months. And the tiger doesn't return. Not visibly. But sometimes. You see shapes in the dusk that look familiar. You hear rustlings that feel rhythmic. You hear stories from travelers about a strange cat with glowing eyes who watches from cliffs, but never attacks. And you begin to understand something you never dared believe before. The tiger never left It's just changed. Or perhaps you have. Your days become quieter. You stop carrying even the knife at your belt. You start bringing food offerings to the jungle's edge, bits of meat, bowls of goat milk, the occasional silver trinket. Not for protection. For thanks. You start telling stories to children, not just about the tiger, but about the old hunters. You teach them how to read clouds, how to smell for water, how to step silently across wet bark. You don't speak of killing, only of balance. Only of watching. And one child cleaver, soft-eyed, asks the question no one else does. What if the tiger was never a monster? You smile, and you say the truest thing you've ever said. Then we're the ones who were. In the driest season, a woman comes to the village. Stranger, wearing foreign cloth, speaking clipped Persian. She carries scrolls, a sketchbook, and eyes like someone who's seen too much and still wants more. She's heard rumors of your tiger, and she wants to know. You invite her in. You offer tea. She doesn't expect that. You let her speak first. Questions about size, weight, behavior. She asks if it's true you spoke with it. You don't answer right away. Instead, you walk to the back of your home, where a small altar stands beneath the rafters. You pull out a bundle wrapped in linen. Inside, the claw from long ago, not the one that vanished, the other one, the one that never quite let go of you. She stares at it, reverent. You ask her, do you believe in rebirth? She hesitates. And in that silence, you realize it doesn't matter. Because belief was never the point. The tiger doesn't need to be proven. It needs to be remembered. She leaves with your story, and you watch her go, hopping, just hoping she gets it right. Years pass. You grow older. Slower. Your joints ache like tree limbs in wind. Your nights get longer, heavier. But the jungle remains. Alive. Whole. And in it, somewhere, a presence moves. Not stalking, not waiting. Just being. Sometimes, when you're too tired to walk, you sit by the old banyan tree and close your eyes. And sometimes, when the dusk is right, you feel it again. The breath, that slow, ancient exhale of something larger than you. Something sacred. And in those moments, you understand tiger was never just a beast. It was a lesson, wrapped in fur and hunger and silence. And the lesson is this: to live among tigers is not to conquer. It is to remember your place. To walk gently. To speak softly. To sit still when the shadows lengthen. And to understand, finally, that some things are not meant to be killed. Some things are meant to be heard. You wake up one morning to find a set of footprints just outside your doorway. Not human. Not fresh. And not entirely whole. They're tiger princes, but only halfway there. As if something massive and padded had touched the earth with the idea of weight rather than actual mass. Light enough to be missed, heavy enough to remain. You don't call anyone over. You don't clean them away. Instead, you sit by your doorway all day, watching as the sun slowly dries the ground cracking the prints into flakes. They vanish, bit by bit, until there's no sign they were ever there. That's how it starts again. The signs. This time, you're not a hunter, you're a witness. You're someone the forest allows to know just enough to intervene. Not to change fate just enough to understand when something sacred is unfolding again. And something is, because somewhere, deep in the jungle, tigers are hunting again. Or maybe just one. The stories start as whispers in tea house escaravans losing. A goat in the night without a sound. Herds in the foothills moving with eerie caution. Once, a man reports seeing a tiger drink from the same stream he bathes inanely a few yards away. Eyes locked, no movement, just observation dot, and in that word observation you recognize the pattern dot it's learning again. Just like before. This time, though, it's not circling a village. It's circling a world that barely remembers it exists. One evening, a small delegation arrives, scholars, soldiers, one young priest. They say they're here to study predator behavior, but you recognize their boots. Thick-soled, designed for chasing, not learning. And their hands twitch toward blades far too quickly. They ask you if the legends are true about a tiger that understands. Human rules dot you offer them tea. They decline. Instead, they ask if you'd guide them through the forest. For pay. For honor dot you refuse. And when they leave frustrated, tied you walk barefoot to the old shrine. The one where the offerings used to be left, and you leave something there again. A small bowl of turmeric and honey, a strip of smoked deer meat, and a single tiger whisker, grayed with age. You whisper nothing. You just sit, eyes closed, until the wind shifts. A week later, one of the soldiers returns alone, feverish, mud-covered, and missing a shoe. He won't speak at first, just cries, shivers. You give him shelter, soup, and space. Eventually, in a voice like ash, he says, "It didn't kill me." Then he adds, "It could have," and you nod, gently. You've heard this before. It's the same story every time. The hunter goes in full of teeth and fury. And if they're lucky, they come out with a story instead of scars. But only if the tiger lets them. He leaves the next morning, never looking back. Seasons shift again. This time, the dry stretches are harsher. The rivers thin to threads. The leaves curl at the edges. Even the snakes seem slower. But the tiger, it thrives. You can feel it. Even without seeing, you imagine it high on the ridges now. Walking trails carved only by paws and wind. Hunting not for food but for memory. You wonder if tigers pass stories between generations not in words, but in muscle memory and silent instinct. You wonder if the offspring of that beast you once faced have inherited more than sinew and tooth. Maybe they inherited patience. Maybe they inherited restraint. And maybe they've inherited a grudge. Because one day, deep in the forest, a poacher vanishes, unknown name, cruel, infamous for trapping cubs and selling teeth. The only trace found is his pack, ripped clean down the middle, with a claw mark no human blade could replicate. The villagers murmur. Some are afraid, but not you. You just sigh and you whisper a soft apology into the trees. Not for the poacher Dot, but for the tiger for ever doubting its wisdom. Children now draw pictures of it in chalk Dot, not snarling, not leaping Dot, just standing tall. Beside trees twice its height, Dot eyes closed, Dot listening Dot, it becomes a quiet icon of the village. A symbol of something both feared and protected. Old cloth scraps are tied around branches near the jungle's edge. Little tokens, a bone, a feather, even a small, carved likeness a tiger with a monk's face and a hunter's eyes. You see that and smile, because it looks like you, and maybe that's the point. Then, one night, during a red moon, it returns Dot, not in body Dot, in sound. A roar unlike any you've heard Dot, it's not loud, not in the traditional sense, it doesn't shake the trees or scatter birds Dot, it pierces. Like a needle sliding under skin Dot, the villagers freeze. Even the dogs go quiet. And then, in the silence that follows, a single child says, it's just saying, hello. No one laughs. But somehow, that makes sense. That feels right Dot. The next morning, something impossible happens. A pelt is found at the edge of the village Dot, massive, untouched, soft as mist. But it's not a kill. There's no blood, no body, no signs of violence Dot, just the skin, curled gently like a sleeping cat Dot, and beneath it, a claw, not from the same beast Dot, smaller Dot, old Dot, and wrapped in leather thread. It's the relic the chief once brought to you, long buried Dot, now returned Dot. No one knows how, but you know why Dot. It's a message, a gift, or maybe a trade. Old violence exchanged for new peace Dot. You bring it inside. You don't mount it, you don't display it. You burn it Dot, CREMONIALLY Dot. The smoke smells like myrrh and old trees, and something older still, the tiger you feel has ended a chapter. Now it's your turn. You begin teaching, not with scrolls or maps Dot, with walks, quiet ones, through dew-covered trails and mossy hollows. You point out claw marks that are more like signatures than warnings. You show where are trees. Bark is rubbed smooth by passing fur. You let the young ones see what reverence looks like. And when they ask you what a tiger really is, you answer without hesitation, a mirror. And if they're very still, if they're listening closely, you add, one that only reflects your fear if you're foolish enough to carry it. And they nod, like they understand. Because they do. The rains come late this year. When they arrive, they're soft, gentle Dot, the kind of rain that doesn't destroy, only heals Dot, and in that damp, green quiet, a new story begins. Somewhere, deep in the wilds, a cub is born, stripes like spilled ink. Paws too large for its legs Dot, it stumbles. It learns Dot, and perhaps, in the marrow of its tiny bones, it already knows your name. Not as prey, not as predator Dot, as something else Dot, a myth. A man who once stood in its ancestors' path and then stepped aside. The rains linger this year, as if reluctant to leave. Days blur into a constant shimmer of mist and moss, and the jungle seems half asleep, like it's letting out a long, leafy sigh. You find yourself moving more slowly now. You listen more. You speak less. Even your dreams are quite strange, vivid things filled with fur and feathers. echoing caves and breathing stone. You're older, not quite old, but the kind of older where you no longer feel the need to prove you belong, because the forest already knows you. And better still, you know it. Your days now are filled with small tasks. You patch roofs, you mend baskets, you show little ones how to walk with the jungle, rather than through it. The children still talk about the tiger, but they talk about it the way children talk about thunder. Present, powerful, but not necessarily dangerous unless you disrespect it. There's an art to that kind of balance. You didn't master it. You were taught it by pop-print and growl, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched, judged, and once or twice dash forgiven . And that forgiveness is a kind of currency now. You spend it by keeping peace . By remembering. One day, an outsider arrives. Not a poacher this time. Not a scholar. A painter. She's young. Barefoot. Covered in charcoal and clay. And the kind of curiosity that makes cats proud. She doesn't ask about the tiger . She asks about you. Which is somehow worse. Is it true, she begins, that you once trapped a tiger with nothing but a net and a riddle? You squint at her like she's asking if you invented bread. No, you say. It took to riddles. She grins, and you can't help but smile back. She stays for a season, draws everything. The old temple, the claw marks on the trees, even the shrine where offerings are still left in neat, quiet lines. But her favorite subject is a mural no one else notices faded, broken, tucked behind a storage hut. It's just a blur of ochre, and black might be a tiger, might be a mountain . She stares at it for hours. Eventually, you ask her what she sees. She replies, a question that answered itself, and you nod, because that's exactly what the tiger is. She asks to paint you. You say no, obviously, but she does it anyway. From memory. One day, you find a rough sketch tucked under a jar of honey. It's you sitting in the rain, one hand outstretched, as if holding something invisible. Behind you, in the sketch, is the impression of a tiger, not literal, just a presence, lines, suggestions, a ripple in the paper . And in the corner, a caption, the one who watched back. You keep the sketch, you don't hang it. You fold it gently and place it with your oldest pouch of herbs, alongside a single tiger tooth found decades ago, probably dropped during a yawn. Now, about that mainstream historical fact I promised. Let's rewind just a bit, because tiger hunting in the medieval world, oh, it happened. But not like the tales often suggest. In South and Southeast Asia, especially in kingdoms like the Khmer Empire, the Chola dynasty, and even later mule courts. Tigers were both feared and worshipped. They were seen as divine guardians, spirits of forests, even reincarnations of warriors. So yes, tiger hunts occurred, but often only under royal sanction. It was a ritual, not just a sport. The kings who hunted tigers weren't just flexing power, they were reenacting cosmic battles between chaos and order. And when they succeeded, statues, scrolls, sometimes even altars were made. That's the thing. You weren't just killing a beast. You were taming a myth, or pretending you could. Now, the quirky tidbit for this stretch, It involves mustard. Yes, mustard. In parts of Bengal and Burma. Hunters used to scatter mustard seeds around sleeping areas or village borders to ward off tigers. Why? Because of an old belief that tigers were obsessive counters, that they'd stop to count each seed one by one until distracted or exhausted. There's something heartbreakingly human in that image. A predator, fierce and majestic, pausing mid-hunt to count seeds, like an overworked accountant. Imagine that. A 300-pound tiger, crouched in tall grass, muttering, 86, 87, 88. Wait, did I skip one? Nature's deadliest predator, defeated by sesame logic. And before you scoff, just remember how many of your nights have been derailed by something small and repetitive, like a dripping faucet, or your brain replaying that embarrassing thing you said 8 years ago. Tigers, they're just like us. Now here's your scholarly debate moment. Historians still argue whether medieval tiger hunts were primarily religious ceremonies, statecraft spectacles, or genuine attempts at population control. You've read the scrolls. You've walked the trails. And if you're being honest, it was probably all three. Humans can't seem to do anything without adding a little pomp, a little ego, and a whole lot of misunderstanding. It wasn't about the tiger. It was about being seen with the tiger, with its hide, its teeth, its blood on a ceremonial blade. But ask anyone who's really met one who's locked eyes with a creature older than empires, and they'll tell you the truth. You don't own a tiger's death. You only borrow its silence. Late one night, as thunder rolls far away, you find yourself walking to the edge of the village. No reason, just a feeling. You sit beneath a tree you used to climb. It's smaller now. Or maybe you're just bigger in all the wrong ways. The jungle is still, but not empty. And after a long while, in the hush between frog calls and falling leaves, you feel it, a presence. Like gravity in reverse. Something washing not with menace but with memory. You don't turn, you don't speak. You just raise your hand and wait, and maybe, just maybe, a breath brushes your fingertips. A greeting. Or a goodbye. You're not sure. But that's the thing about tigers. They never need to explain. They just are. The next morning, a paw print is found near the old shrine, larger than any before. Too large, maybe, but perfectly intact. And right beside it, in soft soil, a human footprint. Yours. Side by side. Not overlapping, not fleeing. Just existing. And the villagers say nothing. They just nod, offer fruit to the shrine, and get on with their day. Because they know now, as you do, that the story doesn't end with claws or teeth. It ends in coexistence. In the quiet rhythm of breath shared across species. In the understanding that sometimes, to survive, you must first stop trying to conquer. You must become part of the forest. And trust that the forest, in return, will allow you to stay. The season shifts, not just in weather, but in feeling. The sun starts to angle lower, stretching shadows into quiet dancers that drift across the paths you know so well. The insects hum in new keys. Leaves start to fall in handfuls, spiraling, like thoughts you've let go. The tiger has not been seen for a year now. Not truly. Paw prints, Yes, a rough bark shredded here and there, but no sightings. No growls in the night. Some say it has passed on. Some say it has simply moved deeper. Where men don't go, you, though you don't say anything. Because you know better than to speak too soon. The tiger has always been less of an animal and more of a rule. Nothing is ever really gone. You wake one morning to find a letter. Well, not a letter exactly, a folded cloth, pinned carefully to your door with a chicken feather. It's from the painter. She's moved on following stories of snow, leopards in the highlands. But she's left you a gift, a sketchbook filled with studies of cats. Not just tigers, house cats, sand cats, mythical cats to like the Vietnamese H'sva, a guardian beast said to live in royal tombs. Tail curled like a question mark dot in the middle of the book is a page that stops you cold. It's you again, but older, more weathered dot standing in a doorway, looking out, one hand resting on the head of a tiger made of smoke. A tiger that looks like it's about to vanish, or maybe appear. She's titled the sketch, Still Listening. And that's exactly what you're doing, more often than not. You've stopped hunting, not out of guilt, out of understanding. You've started teaching instead quietly, unofficially. When travelers come through, they sit beside your fire and ask what it means to track a tiger. You tell them it means learning to be small, to be slow, to be worth the effort it takes not to eat you. That usually gets a laugh, but only one. You prefer it that way. Because the truth is that tiger hunting wasn't about the kill dot, it was about the gamble. You don't chase tigers to catch them. You chase them to see if you're still worthy. Let's slip in your mainstream historical fact here. Just like old times dot by the late Middle Ages. Across Asia, tiger hunting had become a symbol of elite status. In the courts of the Delhi Sultanate and later the mules, royal hunts or shikar were elaborate events involving hundreds of beaters, elephants, and elaborate laws. They were theatre, a demonstration of divine favor and noble discipline. Emperor Akbar, for example, was famously fond of tiger hunts, but he often forbade firearms, relying on spears and bows instead. Because where's the drama in pulling the trigger? The real prestige came from facing death with grace, wrapped in gold-trimmed confidence and extremely impractical shoes. These weren't just outings. They were rituals of masculinity, of cosmic alignment. You weren't just controlling nature, you were proving that nature wanted to be ruled by you. You. Personally, a very modern idea. Now that we mention it. Now, here's a quirky tidbit for you. Some medieval hunting manuals advised whispering to tigers before killing them. Why? Because it was believed that a calm tiger was less likely to curse you in the afterlife. Yes. Really, the logic was that animals, especially apex predators, had souls, powerful ones. So if you startled or angered a tiger during the kill, it might linger in spiritual form, bitter, brooding, and exceptionally vengeful. So what did they whisper? Sometimes prayers, sometimes apologies, and sometimes just their own. Names dot as if saying, "It's me. I did this. Please don't follow me home." Which is oddly relatabled dot and finally. Your open scholarly debate moment. Historians still argue whether tiger hunting in certain dynasties was intended more as ecological management, ritual purification, or simply political theater designed to intimidate enemies and subjects alike. Was it conservation, ego, or some murky blend of the two? Because some records claim tigers were becoming too many a threat to farmers, a plague on goats and children. Others say tigers were already rare, and hunting them was just a fancy excuse for kings to cosplay as gods. And then there's the in-between view, that the tiger, like all symbols, was bent to fit whatever story needed telling that day. And isn't that what humans do best? We take something wild and we narrate it until it sounds like us. One morning, a young man arrives at your door. Quiet, lean, eyes like someone who's seen too much fire and not enough sleep. He carries a spear that's been broken and repaired 3 times, and a scar that runs like a river down his shoulder. He says only one thing: teach me. You don't say yes, but you don't say no. You lead him into the jungle. You walk for hours in silence, and when you finally stop, you say, "Tell me what you see." He describes birds. Tracks, a feather half buried in mud. You nod. Then you point to a spot behind him, and when he turns, there's a tree trunk with 4 deep scratches, fresh, wide, and deliberate. Too high for any tool, too precise for chance. He stares. He trembles. But he doesn't run. And that's when you know he might survive. You teach him slowly. You show him the plants that sting and the ones that soothe. You show him how to walk without making the forest flinch. You tell him stories not to impress, but to warn. He listens well. One day, he asks, "Have you ever killed a tiger?" You reply, "That's the wrong question. What's the right one?" He asks, and you say, "What did the tiger teach you?" He thinks on that for a long time. And in the end, that's the only answer worth passing on. You grow quieter still. The days stretch like silk. You eat less, walk slower. Sometimes you stare into the trees for hours and feel full. One afternoon, you find a stone. Round, polished, strange marks on one side. You're about to toss it away until you realize it's carved. A tiny tiger, just the head, eyes closed, asleep. You keep it. You don't know why. Maybe just to remind yourself that everything is still changing. Even now, especially now. That night, there's a wind from the north, and a sound in the distance. Not a roar, not a growl, just a low, long breath that rustles the leaves like an old lullaby. You smile, not because you recognize it, but because you don't. You don't wake with a start anymore. You rise slowly, like a curtain drawn by hand, not wind. There's a steadiness now, not peace exactly, but a kind of rhythm you've earned. Fewer aches, or maybe just more tolerance for the ones that linger. You've kept your tools sharp, your ears sharper, and your little fire pit in the clearing still smells of smoke and clove bark. The young man is gone now, the one with the scar and the quietness. He left the way you once did, long ago, without ceremony. Without even a proper goodbye, just a folded scrap of linen tucked near your hearthstone. A sketch of a paw print, drawn carefully in ink made from burnt acacia, and to words, still listening. You chuckle when you find it, not out loud, just enough to shake your shoulders, because that's the point, isn't it? Once the tiger lives in your mind, it never really leaves. It pads around in your thoughts, settles behind your ribs, yawns in your dreams. There's an old woman from the village who visits now and then, brings you turmeric root and gossip, sits cross-legged while you brew leaf tea, and always insists on telling you about her neighbor's geese and her son-in-law's back problems. But she's cleverer than she pretends. One day, she leans in and asks, "Do you ever miss it?" You don't answer right away, because how could you not? There's nothing quite like the hush before a tiger appears, like the air is waiting, like the world knows something you don't, and it's being very smug about it. You finally say, "No one ever really stops hunting. Some of us just change what we chase." And she nods, as if she's known that all along. Here's your mainstream historical fact, neatly tucked into the coals of this long evening. In medieval Korea, tiger hunting became both a royal decree and a social obligation under the Goryeo and Joseon dynasties. Designated tiger catchers known as bedachiong were paid in rice and exemption from taxes. Killing a tiger could elevate a peasant's status dramatically, but tiger hunting wasn't. Just about prestige, it was also a genuine act of protection. These striped cats, called horangi, were considered divine, but also deadly. They roamed mountain edges and rice field borders, occasionally dragging off livestock or worse. So when a bedachiong returned with a tiger pelt, it was nailed to the village gate like a banner of safety, a literal "we got it" sign. Imagine that, the animal reduced to both triumph and warning in one. And here's your quirky tidbit for the evening. In parts of Southeast Asia, tiger whiskers were once ground into powders believed to protect against evil spirits. They were hidden in amulets or dissolved into drinks during special rites. But, and here's the strange bit, some hunters refused to touch them at all. They said tiger whiskers could wiggle long after death, not just twitch-move like antennae. Still searching for something or someone. Most of them wouldn't admit it aloud, but they buried the whiskers under rocks, far from camp, always at night. Because if you saw one shift, you might think the tiger was still watching you through it. And honestly, maybe it was. Historians still argue about whether tiger hunting in certain parts of the Middle Ages was an indigenous practice co-opted by colonizing powers or a completely foreign tradition imposed by kings. In other words, were local communities already engaging with tigers in their own cultural ways? Or did elites turn them into sporting trophies, overlaying older beliefs with imported rituals? Some scholars argue that villagers had long revered tigers, not just feared them. They carved them into stone gates, sang lullabies about them, left offerings not to kill, but to keep away, like neighbors, not enemies. Others suggest the hunt was always a form of assertion. To kill a tiger was to announce, "I am stronger than this place." Either way, one thing's clear. We've always used animals to measure ourselves, our worth, our stories, our fears, And perhaps that's the most dangerous thing of all. Dot, it's dusk again. The light turns syrupy. The jungle simmers with green and gold, and you find yourself walking not with purpose, but with instinct. Your feet take you to the old ravine, where the grass grows like threads from another world. Where the last tiger stood. Dot, you sit for a while. Dot, listening. Dot, not for sound, but for presence. Dot, it comes to you slowly, so slowly. You almost think it's your imagination. A shimmer, a breath, a hush that isn't silence, just possibility. And there it is. Dot, at the tree line. Not the tiger, not exactly, but the idea of it. Umber eyes, muscles beneath fog, a tail flicking like a metronome. You know it isn't real. Can't be. You haven't hunted in years. But it doesn't matter, because it's looking right at you. And in that moment, you don't feel fear. You feel remembered, which is stranger and heavier, and somehow exactly what you needed. You nod once. Dot, slowly. Dot, respectfully. Dot, then you rise and walk away. Not because you're brave, but because you've finally learned when to leave something wild. Dot, you return to your hut, and you light the last of your lemongrass oil, and you stretch out on your mat. Dot, the stone tiger beside you, eyes closed, breathing steady. And you think, I never really knew what I was chasing, but it sure knew me. So now, here you are, not in the thick of a humid jungle, not crouched beside a pit trap, or tied to a branch watching bait twitch in the moonlight, not sweating behind an elephant shield or whispering old tiger words into a fire you hope stays lit. You're just here, lying back, head resting on whatever pillow you've called your own tonight, fan humming faintly, shadows stretching a little longer with each breath, and you made it. Even if you wouldn't have lasted a day out there, in the forests, where medieval hunters once faced a cat that could vanish between blinks, even if you slipped on the wet roots of time, or paused too long where you should have run, you still got here. That counts. More than you know. Dot, it's strange, isn't it? The way tigers keep threading through our collective memory, silk soft, but sharp enough to tear through centuries. In temples, manuscripts, ghost stories, even children's songs. Always half lurking, half lauding. The truth is, we've never quite made peace with them. Not the real ones, not the ones in our minds. Because how do you make peace with something that's never afraid to look right at you? That's why they hunted them, you know, not just for furs or fear or food, but because of the unbearable audacity that this creature existed at all, that it didn't ask permission, that it belonged wherever it walked, and didn't shrink itself to survive. What human wouldn't envy that? But that age is gone now. The bamboo snares have rotted. The musk-scented traps have long dried. The kings and their gold-threaded scrolls are dust. The tiger, well, it still walks, but now it does so quieter, rarer, ghost-like, fewer paw prints in the mud, fewer roars echoing at night. It doesn't mean it's gone. Dot, just waiting. Dot, like memory, like thunder behind glass, like something you dreamed about when you were small but couldn't explain in words. You let your body settle a little deeper into your blanket. The corners of your mouth relax. Your jaw softens. Dot, and your thoughts drift not like a river, but like smoke, weightless, curling, slow. There's no hunt here now, no need to track, to wait, to run. You're not in danger anymore. Whatever wild thing was chasing you, whatever clawed fear or creeping dread, it's softened too. You're in a safe place, Dot. And if the tiger still lingers in your imagination, let it. Let it pace gently through the trees of your dreams. Let it lie down beside you in the grass of memory, not to strike, not to scare, but simply to exist. To remind you that not all the dangerous things in this world are cruel. Some are just honest, untamed, necessary. And sometimes the best thing we can do is lie still, breathe deep, and let them pass. You can rest now. Whatever the noise of the day was, leave it at the edge of the forest. No emails here. No chores. No clocks. Just the hum of stillness, the rustle of sleep, and the echo of ancient paws disappearing into dusk. Sleep well, dreamer. You're safe. You're still. You're home.